We are out here. I'm your co-host, Jordan McKelly. That's your other co-host,
John Jacob Jingleheimer Schmidt.
Yeah, that's
I'm sorry.
right.
No, Mitch Balla. Mitch Balla. Sorry.
And we have a lot to get into today for episode 24, Cover Your Balls. Tom Brady just keeps winning and defying time. Trevor Bauer is making more money than the Cleveland Indians roster combined. And Bruce Arians' 95-year-old mother, Mitch, got to experiencing her son win a Super Bowl from the skybox. Lot to get into. In particularly, Bruce Arians' mother. We really got to break down all the football she's seen over the years.
She's seen a lot of football.
She has seen a lot of football, and really that's why
we're here. A lot of balls.
Yeah. But Mitch, before we get into some football, I think we have our top 4 at 4, and today's top 4 at 4 is our top 4 pizza toppings. Mitch, what are your top 4 favorite pizza toppings?
Well, Jordan, for those that are wondering why we just randomly picked pizza toppings, it's National Pizza Day. So first off, happy National Pizza Day to you and to all of our listeners.
Thank you, Mitch.
And if you don't like pizza, well,
yeah,
I don't know.
I don't know if you can say those things.
I'm not going to say
about those
things,
people who don't like pizza. Because if you don't like pizza, you got bigger issues in your life.
You're communist. That's all there is to it. All right, but back to what we're talking about in our top 4 pizza toppings. Jordan, at number 1, we're just going to start there because this is the greatest topping and almost the greatest thing you can add to anything. Bacon.
Wow.
Bacon makes everything better. If you don't like bacon, then you 100% can leave the country because you are a communist then. It's as simple as that. Bacon is the best topping on pizza and almost anything you like.
Trump had that in that was a ban at one point. I'm pretty sure he put bacon on that was also one of the bans. That was on the
It makes sense.
The bacon ban.
The bacon ban. All right, number 2.
Yeah.
How can you not like a classic pepperoni? I mean, listen, a classic pepperoni pizza is everything. I get some people don't like bacon on their pizza. Well, guess what? If you can't agree to pepperoni pizza, then see ya. Number 3,
schmuck.
I like to mix it up sometimes, Jordan. I like spinach. I really do. I like spinach on my pizza. It's a very it makes me think I'm healthy. I'm eating healthy, even though I'm really not, but it lets me think that, and that's all that matters. Let the mind feel a certain way. And Jordan, at number 4, a very unpopular topping, according to some people, meatballs. I love meatballs on my pizza.
Where the hell can you go where they have meatballs on a pizza? I've never seen that. That's not even an option.
Oh, it's an option at multiple places. I've had at least 4 chain places with meatballs on their pizza, Jordan, some local places in Canton with meatballs. Jordan, don't knock it till you try it. That's all I'm going to say. Meatballs on a pizza. It might not sound the best, but let me tell you, it's one of the best toppings.
You know what? I like that you took a stand on there. You could have really bypassed that, took no criticism from everybody watching our show, but you stayed true. I respect that, Mitch. I respect it. Let me give you my top 4. I'm going to give you from 1 down. Obviously, it's pepperoni. I mean, geez, guys. If you get one topping to choose from, you pick pepperoni. You can't pick any of the other toppings. At number 2, chicken. Chicken is just, that's all I eat, Mitch. So that on pizza for me is not surprising. Number 3, I have bacon. And number 4, I have avocados. My favorite pizza in Columbus is a chicken bacon avocado pizza from this place called Figlio. It's unbelievable. Unbelievable. All those toppings together are better than pepperoni with just cheese. But you can't just have bacon and cheese or avocado and cheese, but you can have pepperoni and cheese.
You can.
So
you can.
that's why pepperoni is my number 1. I feel like that's solid.
how do we feel about like there's some people out there that really say, chicken bacon ranch isn't a pizza. What
Oh
do
no,
you like?
that is the pizza. What do you
Yeah,
mean? It
thank you.
is
So the
pizza.
people
It
that
is
don't
the
think,
pizza.
yes, people are like, oh, that's not a real pizza. Yes, it's a real pizza. Chicken bacon ranch is a superior pizza that you don't have to like make. Like you can just say, hey, I want a chicken bacon ranch instead of having to go add all the toppings to it. What do you think about the people like Brandon Ranke in our chat right now? If you're watching us live on YouTube, Facebook, or Twitter, that said, pineapple top 4. Are you a pineapple on pizza guy? Because Jordan, I'm not.
I actually I figured out how much I really liked pineapple this past couple months when I've had pineapple on my like Chipotle at this place called Condado. Now I actually enjoy pineapple on pizza, and I was one of those huge critics on pineapple on pizza. Anybody that would do that, I didn't associate myself with, but now I'm that guy. I've become what I hated, is what I'm saying.
See, I don't hate people for having it on their pizza. I'm not a pineapple on pizza guy. It's just not me. I was just, figured we should ask the question to each other and see what we thought.
I think everybody in the chat agrees that pineapple should be on pizza, and it's hard to argue against them. And so I feel like that's where we leave it, because we don't really, if there's not a stance to be taken, can we take it, Mitch?
No. And the last thing we want to do is offend the listeners or viewers, because we need them to keep coming back.
I don't want to do that.
Apparently I'm a hater, even though I just said I'm personally not a fan of pineapple on pizza. So, you know what? I don't care. Brandon Ranke wants to keep hating. That's okay.
Ooh, Julio says, in Venezuela, we put corn on pizza. It's amazing. I believe you.
It is. Corn on pizza is amazing. I've known Julio for a few years now. That is, at a place here in Canton called Royal Docks, Jordan. They have a Mexican street pizza, corn on it, a little spicy. Oh, superior.
Okay,
top 10 pizza all time. Top 10 pizza all time.
Top 10 pizza. I mean, that's a lot. That's saying a lot, Mitch. Mitch, a lot was happening over the weekend, and before we get into the Super Bowl, because that's what everybody wants to hear about. Everybody wants to talk about, is Tom Brady the GOAT? Well, there's not a whole lot to talk about there because he is the GOAT. So before we get into that, Mitch, over the weekend. Well, not really over the weekend. Was it over the weekend? Was it what had happened? Friday?
When this trade was announced?
It was Friday, sure, so technically over the weekend. Trevor Bauer signed a $3,102 million contract. He gets 40 the first year, 45 the second year, and 17 the third year. And he gets a player option after each year. Unbelievable. He's now making, Mitch, more money than the Cleveland Indians' entire roster. Do you have a problem with him making this much money?
Him? I do. Look, I am a Trevor Bauer fan. I love Trevor Bauer and what he's trying to do for baseball. But not only is he making more money than the entire Indians payroll right now, he is making the most money out of anybody in Major League Baseball. Trevor Bauer is not the best player in baseball. And Jordan, a pitcher who plays once every 5 days, sometimes once every 4 days in the playoffs, should not be the highest paid player in the game. A pitcher should not be the highest paid player on their team. Okay. Trevor Bauer, look, won the Cy Young in the shortened season. I still think Trevor Bauer is one of the best pitchers in the game. But he is not the top pitcher. He is not a top 3 pitcher in all of baseball. So listen, when you talk MLB, there's no salary cap for a reason. And that's why the Dodgers and Yankees and other big market teams literally buy their teams instead of home growing their farm system. So congrats to him on getting his money. But I have a problem with how much he's making because he's not the best pitcher in the game. And in my opinion, a pitcher should never be making more than Mookie Betts, Mike Trout, Francisco Lindor, guys who can affect the game both offensively and defensively every single inning.
That's 100% fair. I agree with basically everything you said. This isn't really I don't think a hot topic. I just think it shows. And I will say this. It is kind of surprising from this stance. Like, we just went through, like, baseball lost so many billions of dollars last year. How can baseball, right? Like, how can he afford, like, how can the Dodgers afford that contract? It just shows and illuminates the bigger problem that really is happening in baseball with, obviously, there being no cap on what you can spend and who you can spend it on. The discrepancies between New York and Boston and the Dodgers to small market teams like the Cleveland Indians, it makes the game definitely less fun. And if you're a small market team like the Cleveland Indians, like we are, it just rips your soul out to see some of this stuff. How many Cy Young award pitchers or types of pitchers like this have the Indians traded away and just given away basically for free, Mitch?
A lot of them. I mean, I know at the time it seems like they're given away for free. CC Sabathia in 2008, Cliff Lee in 2009, Corey Kluber, a 2-time Cy Young Award winner, Trevor Bauer now, probably. Well, I'm going to throw Shane Bieber in there because the Indians aren't going to have him for much longer. They'll have him for another year or two. So right there's at least 5 young winners, whether we had them or they left us and won the Cy Young. So it's crazy. But
I know that I know the content.
I had to read the comment.
For those of you guys listening on other platforms of just audio, we have some comments coming in. Don't mention Jose. But
no, I'm going to address that right now. I didn't mention Jose because Jose's under contract for 4 more years, Mr. Anke. Jose's not in New York about to get a massive contract extension. If you go back and listen to the extent of the question, yes, I am still taking Jose Ramirez over Francisco Lindor all day, every day, and twice in playoff games.
Yeah, and there comes Grant in the chat as well off Facebook saying baseball needs a salary cap. They are killing themselves, and they are.
They are.
They really are. So if you break down Trevor Bauer's second year, if he makes it to a second year, because remember he has a player option on both years, so he can choose to leave if he wants to. Which obviously it seems like he would leave after the second year, right, Mitch? Because he's making 40 the first year, 45 the second year, but his third year is $17 million, and he has a player option before that. And knowing Trevor Bauer and the moves he's made in the past, do you expect him to use his player option and getting out? And can you envision him trying to make $17 million that year? Because that's nothing.
I think the only reason that it's there is a safety net for him. Because remember, these are player options. He controls it. So if Trevor Bauer goes out and shits the bed this year in LA, he's still going to opt in to make $45 million because he can. The team can't control that. But if Trevor Bauer balls out, opts in, and after year 2, say he struggles in year 2,
okay,
it's there for him to opt in and get it because he could work his way off of it so bad that a team might not offer him more than $15 million. So it's there as a safety net, in my opinion. But if Trevor Bauer pitches like he did this year for the next 2 years, he'll be in a spot after his second year in LA to decline the player option and get an even bigger contract.
Wow. That's huge. That's definitely big, Mitch. Well, let's move on here. Let's move to what happened over the weekend on Sunday night. Not only did the weekend, in my opinion, kill his performance, I loved it. A lot of other people hated it. Tom Brady absolutely carved up the Kansas City Chiefs. And we watched for the first time Patrick Mahomes truly struggle. I mean, that's the first time where I looked at him, I was like, this guy's a mere mortal. He is like us. He's not this special thing, this hot item on the market. I mean, he obviously is, but that was the first time I've ever seen him just have dismay on his face, and he still didn't make excuses in his post-game interview. Going into the game, you and I mean, we hit the nail, every nail on the head going into this game. I told you guys, for those of you who listened and bet on this game, I said, what did I say, Mitch? And you guys said you never hammer the under. I said hammer the under. What was it? 56, and there was 40 points in that game. So if you made money off me, you owe me 10% commission. And Mitch, we also said that this defense would have their way with this offense, and they did. What did you see watching this game that maybe some of us may have not seen?
Listen, Tampa Bay played their best defensive game of the year in the biggest game of the year. And yeah, sure, Kansas City's offensive line was a bit depleted, but Jordan, I saw the stat that Patrick Mahomes ran a total of 497 yards before throwing the ball throughout the entire game because that's how much they made him scramble.
You should just invite him on my runs with me is what you're saying.
Yeah, at that point, yeah. But be careful because it was turf toe. I don't know if we heard that during the game enough about Patrick Mahomes' turf toe. Did you hear that enough?
I did because Tony Romo loves to talk about Patrick Mahomes' feet. Patrick, I can get you in the right running shoes so you don't get that turf toe. However, with your cleats, I can't help you with that. You're gonna have to stay with your same cleat game.
Minus the turf toe.
Minus.
He had under 100 yards going into the fourth quarter, which I don't know anybody that would have coming. Nobody in the right mind saw that coming. If they say they did, they're lying to you, flat out lying to you. And listen, Tom Brady played mistake-free football, Jordan. We agree he is not the Tom Brady he was in New England when it comes to how dominant he was as a passer.
Agreed.
And we agree in Green Bay, he almost tried to give that game away with the 3 interceptions. Tom Brady only passed for 201 yards and 3 touchdowns, but he didn't turn the ball over. So that was the biggest thing. And then the defense forced 2 turnovers off Mahomes. And listen, the penalties aren't the reason that the Chiefs lost the game. Maybe if you want to go that far, you can say it's the reason the Chiefs didn't have more points. But no, the Buccaneers came out and put it to the Chiefs right away. And when it looked like the Chiefs were about to make a run in this game, they stopped them. Right at the start of the second half, I really thought the Chiefs were going to go down and score like they always do to start a second half. And Tampa's defense stepped in the way. And Jordan, another shout out to you. Devin White, great game, had that pick in the end zone at the end of the game. So Devin White showed up. The Tampa Bay Buccaneer defense showed up and showed out, and it made Patrick Mahomes look human. And I think it gave teams a recipe for what they have to do to limit Mahomes, and that's get pressure on them without rushing more than your front 4.
Yeah, Mitch, in a 1-game series, I love the better defensive team. I said that before this game because I haven't had much luck picking the Super Bowl, picking the eventual winner of the Super Bowl when it comes down to picking that last game separate from all the other games. And I always went with a better offensive team, and I wasn't going to do it this time. And does Devin White not look like the fastest? I mean, I was watching the game with my buddy Drew, and he's looking beside. He's like, who is that? I'm like, yeah, that's the guy I was telling you about before the game. He is the best player on the field, and I think he was the best player on this field. And not only that, Shaq Barrett was unbelievable. I mean, top to bottom, that defense. And how about Antoine Winfield, going up to Tyreek Hill in his face and giving him the deuces, which was one of the most hilarious things I've seen in a game. And Jim Nantz and Tony Romo really played that down as some act of terror and violence. And I thought it was hilarious.
It was amazing.
Get. When you talk as much shit as Tyreek Hill talks, and he talks a lot of it, by the way, great post-game interview. He handled losing like a champ. But when you talk that, I mean, you have to take it when people throw it back your way. And Antoine Winfield, you win the weekend. He won.
He did win the weekend, and then second place has to be the streaker we saw on the field, Jordan. To be honest, I think he had more yards in one drive than the Chiefs did in one whole drive. And that is all that matters right there. The streaker, kudos to you. And shame on CBS for not showing that. That's what people wanted to see. Nobody expected this game to be 31-9. And once again, if you did, you're lying again. So stop lying and get some help if you really thought this game would be 31-9. It's as simple as that. But shame on CBS for cutting away. That was just electric. Thankfully, people in the stands and other networks put it out there. But I just wanted to throw it out there that the streaker was one of the most entertaining plays of the night, Jordan.
You know what I hate, Mitch? Can I tell you what I hate?
Sure.
Can I? Yeah, okay, you have to give me permission. Okay, thank you. When commentators act like they're too good to laugh at something that's funny, like if a guy's running ass naked across a football field, and this guy wasn't particularly doing that, but they always like, oh my gosh, look away! That's hilarious. That's funny. That guy's going to jail. I don't know. I think it's funny. But last night,
I think it's hilarious.
Yeah. It's always rubs me the wrong way when when commentators do that. That's why we love Charles Barkley and those and Shaq and people who will joke. That's why Snoop Dogg is he's gonna end up commentating all those new boxing fights because of how much success he had in the Jake Paul fight because people got into it instead of being so stiff. That's what I
completely agree.
Thank you.
I completely agree.
I mean, I know there's that rant go on. I appreciate
there's a sense of professionalism in everything you do, but at the same time, Jordan, you have to be able to have fun. And at that point, those guys were running out of talking points strictly because everybody and their mother and their father and their sister and brother and grandmother and cousin and the bagger at Walmart that was playing cornerback for the Cleveland Browns in Week 15,
Kevin Johnson,
expected that game to be close, and it wasn't. So therefore they lost a lot of talking points, and the intensity of the game did go down in the fourth quarter. It's just man, have some fun. I mean, you heard Kevin Harlan's call, right? You heard Kevin Harlan on Westwood One.
Yeah.
So Like, why? He's amazing. Kevin Harlan's amazing. I love Jim Nantz, and I understand you have to be professional, but at that point in the game, come on, dog. You got to have some fun there.
And here come. I don't know if you saw what Brett what I put on the screen from Brett. Got on. He said he got kicked out of the strip club after the game for jumping on the pole. Real MVP status. That is real MVP status. How about? I imagine you saw Mike Evans. Mike Evans is doing his post-game interview, and Gronk is coming over to him while he's he's reporting. He's like, "Hey, we got to go party. We got to go party. What are you doing? Sitting here. I got to show you how to do this." Did you watch that?
Oh yeah, I saw that. Talking to Michael Irvin and who were the other two? Well, yeah, I saw it.
Mariucci. That was kind of weird.
Yeah, Steve Mariucci. That's what that was. I knew it was somebody odd. I was like,
but when's the last time Steve Mariucci's come on and like I've seen him? That was just kind of odd. Mm-hmm. The first thing I see every time I see is that guy's face. I see Jeff Garcia. Remember Jeff Garcia? Like both of their faces are synonymous with me. When I think of the one, I think of the other. But Mitch, moving ahead. Obviously, the defense dominated the game, which put Tom Brady in. I mean, they were going to win that game, if Derek Anderson was quarterback, if Brady Quinn was playing quarterback, just because of how dominant the defense is. How good did Brady play?
Brady played as well as he needed to play, and that's all that matters. He didn't play. He didn't have to throw for 400 yards. He didn't have to throw for 5 touchdowns, Jordan. He played mistake-free football. And sometimes in the NFL, that's all you have to do to win. He played a very clean game. He got the ball to all reliable, which shout out to Shane Kelly, because him and I bet that Gronkowski was going to score a touchdown and win us money. That was free money because, listen, that was Mike Evans and Brate and Godwin's first time in a Super Bowl. So why would you not go back to the well to old Mr. Reliable, Rob Gronkowski? Taking candy from a baby. That's how easy that bet was.
Two touchdowns for him in the Super Bowl. I'm excited for Rob because he handled it so well earlier in the season when he wasn't getting a whole lot of touches. And he kind of made the joke that said, "No, I'm a blocking tight end. I'm not a receiving tight end," which was awesome because you always hear these wide receivers getting shipped out of town because they're complaining about how many touches they get, right? And so it's refreshing to see people like that rewarded. You know what bummed me out? Scotty Miller didn't score in this game. I was really hoping Scotty Miller scored in this game just because of that Tyreek Hill and him, that little, I don't know what you want to call it, whatever they had during the week when they were talking about who was the fastest, which we all know Tyreek Hill's the fastest.
Agreed.
But they were addressing that. Well,
Mitch, Scotty Miller may not have scored on the field, but he scored with his wife because she is a dime. If you saw that picture after the field with her holding the Lombardi Trophy, a dime. That's all I will say.
I didn't. I don't know. She was on the field holding the Lombardi Trophy?
Afterwards with him. There's a picture on Instagram of those two holding it, and she is beautiful.
Well, good for him. Good for him.
He might not have scored on the field, but he won a Super Bowl and probably scored off the field, if you know what I mean.
Wow. Wow, Mitch. Hey, guys. It's time for Mitch's afternoon headlines. Mitch, roll.
Oh, wow, Jordan. We have a lot of afternoon headlines to get to. I don't even know where to start, but let's just stay in the NFL right now, Jordan. Okay. First things first, from here on out, it is no longer playoff Lenny. It is Super Bowl Lenny for Leonard Fournette, who also, Jordan, we need to mention him. He had a great game in Super Bowl 55 as well. But Jake Pilata did put up that he hasn't heard a lot of Tom jokes. This is only the second Super Bowl Tom Brady's won without a top 10 defense. We said his defense helped. I've already mentioned that Tom Brady is the GOAT 2016. I have the receipts on Twitter. But Jordan, that's not here nor there. We don't need to listen to Jake Pilata, who's just hurt that I keep calling him Tom. So let's move on to the opening odds for the 2020 Super Bowl. Jordan, who do you think is the favorite to win?
Oh, I'm sure Vegas has Kansas City.
Kansas City is the favorite. Do you know who the second favorite is?
The second favorite? I'm going to say they have the Rams there.
It is the Green Bay Packers and reigning MVP, Aaron Rodgers.
That's fair. I don't have a problem with
Plus
that.
900. Tampa Bay comes in at 3. The Baltimore Ravens and Buffalo Bills and Rams are tied at 4th with plus 1,200 odds to win the Super Bowl. Jordan, our Cleveland Browns come in at 9th on the list, plus 2,200.
I think that's really fair. I mean, man, that's a lot of confidence Vegas has on the Browns coming back and having a good season. The Browns have an incredibly hard schedule. The fact that the Browns have the 9th best odds with the 3rd hardest schedule, I'd say Vegas is showing a lot of confidence in what Kevin Stefanski and the boys are doing in Cleveland.
A little too much confidence in the Saints, who are still ahead of the Browns, Jordan, as well as the 49ers. Do you think those teams should be ahead of the Browns in Super Bowl odds for 2022?
Do I think the 49ers should be ahead of the Browns?
And the New Orleans Saints.
Well, not
both teams.
With who,
both teams are ranked higher.
Jimmy Garoppolo playing quarterback. If they get a quarterback who's competent, honestly, I don't even know if Deshaun's the guy if he gets there, and I don't even know if he makes them better than the Browns. Honestly, I've been thinking about this a lot lately. I don't think the 49ers are better than the Browns, though. No, I don't. Short answer.
I agree. I think the Browns should be ahead of the Saints and 49ers, but we'll see what happens on the field in 2022 when the Browns are let out by reigning Coach of the Year, AP Coach of the Year, Kevin Stefanski. Wanted to make sure we got that in there.
Yes,
he
sir.
was awarded AP Coach of the Year at the NFL Honors. Jordan, Derrick Henry won Offensive Player of the Year. Any issue with that?
No, I mean, I told you the whole year that Derrick Henry, was the man. I mean, anytime you rush for 2,000 yards, which is something that few people, if you have 1,000 yards in the NFL, that's a fantastic season for a running back. He just did it twice. That's how good he is. I mean, nothing else needs to be said. I don't need to sit here and, get on my soapbox about how good he is. His numbers speak for himself, and you should listen to the numbers, Mitch. Like I said, the numbers speak for themselves.
He did it last year, too.
He had 2,000 yards in a season on the ground running with his feet. That is the best in the game. Unbelievable. No, give him the respect he deserves. You're acting like he's Peyton Hillis or some cat.
Wow,
okay.
that is the biggest cap I have ever heard, folks. Please disregard that last statement from Jordan McKelly.
Hey,
that is the most absurd comparison there has ever been.
You clearly think he's just any other running back, and he's clearly not any other running back.
You're not even letting me get to the point. He did it last year. So Travis Kelce breaking the all-time receiving record this year for a tight end in NFL history, I thought deserved some more recognition than it did. He was a finalist. Listen.
In an NFL that is more pass heavy than is run heavy, it is considerably more impressive. But I'll live to fight another day. This is your moment. This is Mitch's headlines.
Tennessee's a run heavy offense, so I don't know about that one. But anyways, Jordan.
Well, of course.
Back to our last episode where we had a bet on whose nostrils would be shown first. Just wanted to point out that Andy Reid plus 150 cashed in, put it on the board.
Congratulations. I know that meant a lot to you.
Great win, though.
You had a couple prop bets going on in the Super Bowl. How about you tell everybody the prop bets you had going on?
Well, first off, Susie, who did the coin toss, just never touch a coin again. So I had tails. I think half the country had tails. So Susie, I'm sorry, but I don't like you. And a lot of people don't like you right now. The other one was the color of Gatorade, why CBS cut away from the color of Gatorade bath before the game was over is a travesty. Had everybody wondering, Jordan, I bet purple. It was blue. Second highest odds were blue. I bet purple, which was plus 800. Close, but no cigar. And I did bet with another buddy of mine who lives in a state where it's legal that there would be over 1.5 turnovers in the game, and that did hit as well. So I was 2 for 4 or 3 for... I don't know. I won 3 bets. The one with you and then 2 total in the game.
Congratulations.
And Sam Summers saying tails always fails. That's the first time that tails had not won the coin toss in the last 7 years. So that's just a complete lie by Sam Summers, who Jordan, I don't know. We just can't have that. But Jordan, a moment now for former Browns head coach Marty Schottenheimer, who passed away yesterday. I know you grew up, and you and I both grown up football fans. He was what our parents watched growing up, what a lot of our listeners' parents would have watched growing up. Led the Browns to at least 2 AFC title games. Got a lot of slack for his postseason record, Jordan, which ultimately caused the Washington Post today to put as the obituary headline, Marty Schottenheimer, NFL coach whose teams wilted in the postseason, dies at 77. What are your thoughts on the Washington Post after that?
You know who else lost around that time to John Elway? Everybody lost to John Elway. Everybody lost to John Elway. Even people in his family that played board games and everything. John Elway didn't lose in anything. The fact that Marty Schottenheimer was a fumble and a drive away from two potential huge games, it's not on Marty Schottenheimer. Marty Schottenheimer got fired after a 14-2 season. Who gets fired after a 14-2 season? And shame on anybody.
Marty Schottenheimer.
Yeah, shame on anybody who would say, well, you know, oh man, his legacy is just, when I think of his legacy, all I think of is all the playoff games he lost. You know what everybody's legacy, other than Tom Brady's in the NFL, is? Losing! That's what everybody's legacy is, because they do more losing than they do winning. What the hell kind of post on what? Like, it's unbelievable. That's a fool, and especially within 24 hours, this guy just died.
Tragic, really. I don't know what they were thinking by posting that.
It's crazy.
It has since been changed, apparently, Jordan, after they caught a lot of heat within the first hour of posting it. But obviously, we know the internet's undefeated, and it's still out there. So just a complete and utter L for the city of Washington. We'll just put it that way.
You know, I'm sorry for my emotion. The Browns have had a tremendous season. No one, and I mean no one, is going to take a shot at anybody, alive or dead, who at any point wore anything Cleveland Browns. You hear me?
Unless your name's Art Medell, then you can rot in hell.
Oh, wow. That took a turn for the worse. I assumed that was all of your afternoon headlines, but they're not. That's not it, because we haven't talked about Serena.
Well, Jordan, that's what some people want. There's a lot of people out there. I am not one of them, although there's people that are going to think I am, that are saying that Tom Brady isn't the greatest athlete of all time. Is Serena Williams, who's at the age of 39, also a mother now, who has 23 major titles, 33 major finalists, has been the year-end #1 tennis player in the world 5 times, and has won 358 major match wins, the greatest athlete of all time?
Is she the greatest athlete ever, you said?
That's the question that they are posing now. We'll keep it this way, because we don't need to disrespect anybody. Serena Williams she's one clearly, of the greatest?
I mean, yeah. I mean, if she wants that title, we can give it to her. I mean, the better thing is to say women's athlete, because she'd get waxed by most men. That's no disrespect to her. That's just the reality of it, right? So you can't be athlete is all encompassing. So that puts women in a category with men. It doesn't make anything she's done, like, it doesn't make it any less spectacular or terrific. You know, she has one of the best sporting careers of all time, and we should honor it as that. But she's not, and let's not, you know, in a world where we're changing a lot of words and doing a lot of different things, we're not changing what best athlete means. She's not the best athlete, and we're not going to talk about it or humor it.
She's not the best, but Jordan, ultimately, she's the best female, and she is one of the best when it comes to resumes.
Oh, 100%. Yeah, 100%. I'm just saying, we'd have to compare her to LeBron James. You know what I mean? Right, we can't do that. That's not fair to her.
It's not fair.
Yeah.
What else isn't fair is me leaving out good friend of the show, Malik Beasley. If you remember back in December, who was caught with Larissa Pippen. Jordan, Malik Beasley has been sentenced to 120 days. Wow. I don't know why, but Malik Beasley has been sentenced to 120 days to a county workhouse with work release and home confinement that he'll have to serve at the end of the NBA season. It is actually for, I don't know the specifics, but it is for the threat of violence charge.
That's not enough.
It will be reduced to a misdemeanor after completion of probation. The felony drug charge was also dismissed for Malik Beasley. So I just wanted to bring back in good friend of the show, Malik Beasley, Jordan.
You know what his punishment should have been, Mitch? His punishment, because what he did is much worse than what he got. He should have to play on a team with Bradley Beal. That should be his punishment. He should have to go play on a team with Bradley Beal. and lose every single game you ever play, no matter what the stats are.
I like it. I like that punishment. I'll recommend that to the courthouse
Thank
of appeal,
you.
Jordan.
Appreciate
Moving to basketball, at 36 years old, in year 18, LeBron James is averaging 34.5 minutes per game. That is more than these young stars of Ben Simmons, Jaylen Brown, Zion Williamson, Trae Young, De'Aaron Fox, Donovan Mitchell, Bam Adebayo, to name some. And that's also while he's playing his lowest minutes per game in his career's history. What does this say about the GOAT that we already knew?
I mean, he just knows how to play the game. He knows he's so in tune with his body, and he spends so much money on his body where he knows where that fine line is. You know, me and you were talking earlier, obviously off the air because we weren't in the middle of a live show. We were talking about if you don't take a moment to give your body a break, your body will pick whatever that day is for you, right? The more you get in tune with your body, the more you know about yourself. You can make informed decisions ahead of time so that you can continue to play longer and continue to be strong and fast. And that's what LeBron James has done, and he's just going to continue to do it until he physically, probably emotionally and mentally just doesn't have the desire to play the game anymore. Honestly, I think that'll come before he physically can't play the game. I think he probably could play until he's 45.
I agree. Jordan, there's plenty of other headlines I have. One we'll actually touch in our final segment, if you know what I'm saying. Another one we'll save for another day when we have less talking points, because right now we're going into a lull of sports for about 3 to 5 weeks, just college basketball before baseball gets back. But Jordan, we do need to talk about another rapper before we move on, and that this time would be Lil Nas X, who I don't know if you saw on Twitter, but apparently he bought titties.
I'm gonna what?
The rapper Lil Nas X.
What do you mean he bought titties? That's not,
well,
you
Jordan,
can't just walk into Giant Eagle, go to the pharmacy section and pick up.
If you go to his Twitter, which is at Lil Nas X.
What?
Apparently he bought titties.
What?
So last week we had Lil Uzi Vert putting a $24 million pink diamond in his forehead, and this week we have Lil Nas X buying titties.
Good for you. Oh. Wow. Oh, you know what I forgot? I looked up things that Trevor Bauer should do with his money because he has so much of it, right? Or he will. Well, no, he basically already has it. It's all guaranteed. One of the things you can do is buy part of the moon. Did you know the internet is a strange place? Lunarland.com, who claim to be the Earth's oldest, most recognized celestial real estate agency, sell land on the moon by acre. The Moon Estate Agency would sell you, and get this, guys, 1 million acres of lunar land for only $30 million. So Trevor Bauer, don't think about putting all your money in some account somewhere in the Cayman Islands. Buy some land on the moon. That's what I forgot, Mitch. I appreciate you humoring me.
I'm glad you put that in, and I'm glad that's how we ended the afternoon headlines.
Yeah. Well, Mitch, there's a couple other things we need to get into. And one of those things, Mitch, is, are the Utah Jazz, are they the best team in basketball right now?
I mean, if you're going by standings, Jordan, they have to be, right? They absolutely have to be.
I think they do.
I mean, they're 19-5, which is the best start in their franchise's history, I believe. Don't quote me on that. It might be since the last time they had a better start. But yeah, Jordan, 19-5, best record in all of basketball. Obviously, the number one seed in the West by just a half a game over the Lakers. But Jordan, if the Jazz keep this roll going, and they are the number one seed in the West, does it damage the NBA playoffs a bit?
I think it does, Mitch. I don't think there's as much hype. There's not that extra amount of runway of buildup for the NBA, because we want that showdown that we didn't get last year. We want the Los Angeles Clippers to play the Los Angeles Lakers in the Staples Center in the Western Conference Finals. And if the Utah Jazz are the number one seed, that's obviously not going to happen. That game would happen before the Western Conference Finals. I think it really does kill some of the hype. Now, obviously, there's so many games to be played, right? There's another like 50 games, 45 games or so. So a lot can happen within from now until then. But if Utah is the number 1 seed, that does mess a lot of things up. And this might be Donovan Mitchell's revenge tour from last year, where he basically outplayed the Nuggets and wasn't able to get past them in the playoffs. Do you think the Lakers or the Clippers should be worried about the Utah Jazz at all?
No, because I think those teams are both better than the Utah Jazz, Jordan. We know that the number 1 seed means nothing to LeBron James because we saw it in Cleveland so many times. It doesn't matter what seed he is. That man is going to win, and he will win until somebody beats him, which is usually in the NBA Finals unless an injury takes him out first. That's what we saw in LA. The Clippers, I don't know, Jordan. I mean, listen, I still think the Clippers are the second best team in the West right now. Obviously, the record says differently, but you and I talked about this. The hardest place to play, fans or no fans, is probably Denver because of the altitude. Now, Utah, not as high as Denver, but it still has that same effect for the visiting team. So you're talking about now a team like Utah having home court advantage over the Lakers or Clippers, which ultimately that could be the biggest home court advantage a team needs rather than fans is the altitude difference. I don't know. What do you think? Should they be worried about the Jazz?
Yeah, right now I'm looking up Salt Lake City's exact altitude because I'm pretty sure it is very comparable to what Denver's is, which means it's going to be a tough place to play, especially anytime you're doing any anaerobic, which are basically short bursts or sprints, Mitch. Anytime you're doing any activity like that and you're getting winded, it's going to take a lot longer to recover, and that's why a lot of people can't control their breathing in climates like that when you're doing high intense stuff. Like I've gone out there and run 30-mile long runs, but been going so slow to where that's not a big deal. When you're playing basketball, I mean, that's all it is sprinting. So it's a big deal. So, if the Utah Jazz are able to get the number 1 seed, I think that is an advantage, even with no fans. I think you're 100% right in saying that they are going to have a big advantage because that's travel that the Lakers and the Clippers just don't want to necessarily have to do. Who wants to travel? I would rather, work at home as opposed to go thousands of miles away from home to do my job.
Especially if it's going to be a little bit harder, Why make it harder on yourself? Jordan, call your shot right now, though. Will the Jazz end up being the number 1 seed in the West?
No, they won't. I think the Lakers will. I think a couple weeks ago I was a little worried just because of how carefree they were playing. And I know that LeBron's not great in January, and I know that you've addressed that in a previous episode that LeBron's not great in January, but LeBron's not great in January because he's typically on a team where he has to do, most of everything. And so he kind of takes January off. Here's the deal. The Lakers are stacked. They have 2 different starting fives. Anthony Davis has to play better, and some of his surrounding pieces need to play better. Okay? They need to play better, and they have. And now they've won a couple games. I think they're 19-6 now. They're getting back on track. I think the Lakers end up finishing with the best record because I think LeBron understands compounding interest. And what I mean by that is I think he understands what happens when you just take each day as a singular day and focus on that day and get to the next day. And obviously 30 to 60 to 90 days down the line, that interest compounds and you get better. And for them, that would be maybe working an extra hour a day just to make sure they get the number 1 seed. If you were working overtime, if you were trying to work 50 hours in a week, Mitch, and you typically worked 40, right? You would try to even those days. Like you would try to probably chip in and maybe work 2 hours extra per day as opposed to doing it all at once. I think LeBron knows that, and I think they're going to end up with the number 1 seed. I know that was a long explanation for that, but I think there is. I think there is some science behind what he does. I don't think LeBron does anything on accident. I think everything he does is calculated, and he works on a timeline that's a little different than everybody else's.
I agree. I completely agree. And honestly, the same way as people are now realizing this in the NFL is you don't bet against Tom Brady, you don't count him out, whether he's 43 or not, is the same type of energy people need to have for LeBron James that they don't have already. Listen, it doesn't matter. Lakers in 5. But you touched on, unless you want to address Shane Kelly's comment first before we move on.
We
to
can
Lakers.
address that because I think I was higher on the Heat than you were. So that's probably more of a shot at me that Shane's taking out. Yeah, Shane, I'm not going to make any excuses for the Miami Heat. I have no idea what the hell's going on with them. They're an extremely young team that seems to be able to control how emotional they become in games. Like they seem like they have a lot of emotional control. Incredible coach, incredible front office. I don't understand why they're so bad right now. I don't get it at all. It's kind of weird. If you look at the standings, I knew the Suns were going to be good, but the Suns are sitting there at 4. There are some things that I think will change, but for the most part, I feel like a lot of the where teams are right now, Mitch, I feel like that's where a lot of them are going to end up, which is very scary for the Heat because they're one of the worst teams in the East right now, and I can't explain why. I'd be lying to you if I told you I've watched a lot of Heat games. I watched 2 or 3 early on, and I haven't really caught a whole lot of their games. So,
Jordan, I think there's 2 reasons that I was high on the Miami Heat. I really was, but I think there's 2 reasons to explain what's going on right now. One, they have been hurt a little bit. Now, I'm not saying anything significant, but they've had bumps and bruises. A lot of teams have. I mean, let's be honest. The bubble was just before the season started, 2.5 months before. It was the shortest offseason in NBA history. Mm-hmm. And keep that in mind when we talk about the Lakers here in a second after we talk about the Heat. But the other thing is, Jordan, I think we're finally starting to realize which teams benefited from the bubble the most. Were the Miami Heat a team that benefited from the bubble just like the Denver Nuggets? Like was playing on a neutral court night in and night out, no fans in there, and no distractions. Was that what they needed to really hone in on who they were as a team and make an NBA Finals run, ultimately lose to the Lakers? Because I think that's what we're getting right now. And honestly, Jordan,
that's a great point.
Same thing can be said for the number 8 seed Denver Nuggets, who made a run last year to the Western Conference Finals. They're 8th in the West. And I'm not going to let the Dallas Mavericks out of this either, because the Dallas Mavericks are the 3rd example of that, because the Dallas Mavericks stink. They are terrible. And the kicker, they don't have a first-round pick this year, so they better figure it out.
Yeah, it's weird. I mean, you look at San Antonio. Who the hell does San Antonio have? And I know who's on their team. It's a rhetorical question. But, like, it's unbelievable that they're where they're at. I mean, who's their best player, Mitch? Who do you think their best player is? San Antonio Spurs.
Is it DeMar DeRozan?
I guess. Maybe. Is it?
Right. Or LaMarcus Aldridge? I don't know. I'm not going to sit here and tell you I've watched the Spurs this year because I haven't.
I mean, I think the Spurs being 14-10 shows how much coaching means in the NBA. A lot of people like to brush off coaching. I know Kyrie, if you're out there, and I know you probably listen to Covering Your Balls right now, it's a high priority thing for you to do. Coaching does matter. It does matter. And I think we're seeing how much it does matter right now in San Antonio. And how cool is it that, we talked about this the other day in an interview, Becky Hammon just one spot away from just having a head coaching position in the NBA. Hopefully, I feel like that's going to happen in the next year or so, Mitch. I feel like that happens.
I agree. I think it's only a matter of time before she's the head coach of the Spurs. And if not, it's only a matter of time before she's a head coach somewhere else in the league. But the Spurs are a team that's surprising some people. Jordan, the Sacramento Kings are 7th in the West. I don't even think you and I gave them a thought when we did our preseason show of who we thought would make the playoffs and everything. So that's a team that surprised me as well. And the Houston Rockets, everybody wrote them off, left for dead, 11-12. They're also ahead of the Pelicans, the Grizzlies, and the Mavericks. So there's a lot going on in the NBA right now that, one, we're going to start diving a lot deeper into since football season is officially over. But just so many different talking points and ways we can take this for future shows. The NBA isn't who we thought they were.
Did they let him off the hook?
They let him off the hook.
Mitch, looking at, do you have anything else on the NBA that you want to touch? Because there is you do have to remember, you brought up the Kings. Luke Walton, when he got in there, that first year was a little rough. This is Luke Walton actually being able to coach for the first time, and this is what maybe you get when Luke Walton has some time to prepare. The Kings are a pretty good basketball team right now, but I mean, it's easy to say and to talk this early in the season because we're only 20. I mean, they're 10 and 11. We're only 23 games in. And on the outside looking in right now, we have a Golden State Warriors team that is better than I thought they would be. A Houston Rockets team that is, let me tell you what, Victor Oladipo and John Wall, that's a really good basketball team. They're 11 and 12. You have
Jayshawn Tate too from the Ohio State University.
Exactly. You have the Pelicans at 10 and 12 and the Mavericks at 11 and 14. So you have multiple teams on the outside looking in the West that are really good basketball teams. And then obviously you flip to the East and we're talking about the Heat. The Heat are 9 and 14. That is rough. When you have a worse record than the Cleveland Cavaliers, and you were just in the NBA Finals, it's a little rough. Mitch, Brooklyn, you have the same viewpoint. I know Maurice came in with some comments on the screen a minute ago saying that it's going to be the Nets and the Lakers. I think he has the Lakers in 6. Do you feel any different about the Nets right now? I know a lot's happened, just a lot of moving pieces in the last 2 months, and we've talked about it, but we haven't talked about this specifically lately. Do you feel any different about the Nets right now?
I don't. I mean, listen, they are going to be the favorite out of the East. They are the best scoring team, as we said a couple episodes ago, right now, on pace to be the highest scoring team in NBA history, most efficient. But Jordan, their Achilles heel is going to catch up to them regardless if it's in the Eastern Conference playoffs or the NBA Finals. They're on pace to be the worst defensive efficiency or have the worst defensive efficiency rating in NBA history. That's going to catch up to them when they run into a team led by LeBron James or a team that has 2 superstars and firepower to match 3 superstars and some other firepower, I guess you'd say. I wouldn't call everybody on the Nets capable of coming in and just catching fire. They just signed him on Shumpert. I don't know. Like I'm not worried about him at all. So I ultimately expect the Nets to get there to the finals. I don't see them winning. I'm still sitting here and rocking with LeBron James and the Lakers. I expect them to repeat, but I think the Nets will come out of the East, but I won't be shocked if they get beat, Jordan.
Wow. All right.
And I will address Sam's comment. On a previous podcast I did address that the Miami Heat were just all around better than the Milwaukee Bucks last year. So I know it's not because of the bubble, or I'm still saying it's because of the bubble. They were just a better team than the Milwaukee Bucks all around last year. That's why they swept them in the regular season and ultimately why they beat them in the playoffs. I was not shocked they beat the Bucks.
Listen, even Austin Rivers and all kinds of people were balling out in the bubble. The bubble was perfect for LeBron. Not really real basketball, though. The lights weren't that bright, let's be honest. Which brings me to this point. Everybody feels, and when I say everybody on TV feels as if Bradley Beal is the next superstar. Do you believe Bradley Beal, Mitch, is even a top 15 player in the NBA? And I know that may seem like a ridiculous question to you, but is he a top 15 player?
No. Simple as that.
Maybe it's a great question then.
Great question. Good players or great players, Jordan, make their teammates around them better. Something Bradley Beal can't do. Yeah, sure. He's leading the league in scoring, 33 points a game. Well, he's taking 25 shots a game, Jordan. Okay. His stats are way overblown. Congrats. You can score all you want. How many games is that winning you, Bradley? How are your teammates getting better around you, Bradley? Because it's not winning you many games and no one around you is getting better. Okay. Bradley Beal is not a top 15 player. Look, he's most certainly not top 10. Okay. You can't sit here and tell me he's better than, let's just rattle them off: LeBron James, Giannis, Durant, Harden, Kawhi Leonard, Steph Curry. I honestly, Nikola Jokic, by the way, who I still think is one of the most underrated players in the league.
Donovan Mitchell.
Donovan Mitchell, Damian Lillard. I'm taking Dame. He's a better all-around player. Bradley Beal is a phenomenal scorer. I'm not taking that away from him. Luka Doncic, Anthony Davis. Look, there's easily 10 plus.
Did you really hesitate on Donovan Mitchell, though?
No, I was thinking when you said that to me.
Okay.
So I just
want to make sure that
I was about to say Damian Lillard. I was like,
okay.
So I was like, what? I was like, wait, what am I saying right now? So no. I agree. Right. You just caught me in a little thing there. Jordan, he's not top 15. Listen, we gave, as Mo thinks he's a top 15 player. Listen, I'll argue with people about between 10 to 15. I'll hear all the arguments because there's still other players out there that I could make a case for that are better than him. But you're not ever going to tell me he's a top 10 player in the NBA. And I don't believe he's top 15.
Listen, I don't know if he's a top 10 player in the East. Okay? I mean, how can you be a top 10 player in the East? Your team's not even a top 10 team. You know what I mean? Like, I don't understand. But they have 6 wins. They're 6-15. They're 6-15, and they can't they can't be at least 500 with Russell Westbrook and not John Wall, Lord have mercy, with Bradley Beal. This is still incredibly bizarre to me. You can't tell me a team whose best player is RJ Barrett for the Knicks. It has 5 more wins than the Wizards, and he's a top 10, 15 player. Honest to God, I'm looking at the teams in the East right now. I'm not sure he's a top 10 player. I know the comments are rolling through. I'm sure people hate me for this, but I don't know if he's a top 20 player. It's unbelievable. He's an incredible scorer, but I mean, that's all he does. You might as well sit your ass on the bench after you shoot the ball because he's not doing anything else. He's not changing the game. I don't even know if he talks to his teammates. Do his teammates know him? Like, how do you have zero impact? I don't get it.
I don't get it either. I mean, they're 6-15 right now, and Bradley Beal scored 35 last night for the Wizards to hold off the Chicago Bulls. And what the headline says is a 105-101 rare win. Okay? I mean, he's not a top 10 player in the league. He's not a top 15 player in the league. It's as simple as that, Jordan. He's averaging over 33 points per game. The leading player for the Wizards for assist is Ish Smith at almost 5 assists a game. Like, Bradley Beal can't even get his other teammates involved.
Man.
It's
rough. It's rough.
It certainly is rough. I mean, listen, plays 35 minutes a game. I'm just not sold. Listen, he's a great scorer. I'll tell you that he's a great scorer, but he's not a guy that, obviously, as you can see from his team's success in all the years past, he isn't one of the best players in the game.
And Mitch, that's okay. That's okay.
It is.
You know what? He doesn't have to be. But it doesn't seem like his teams are ever going to win games. And it is what it is. Whoa, that was loud, Mitch, and it looks like we're going to move to college basketball. Boxing, there's no balls in boxing other than, if you're a guy boxer. But we're going to, we're trying to incorporate boxing into this, Mitch, because it's a sport.
It's a sport. There are balls in it. Whether, those are the ones you definitely want to cover up in that sport, but that's another discussion for another time. And by the way, we already have an episode out about boxing, Jordan. One of our special Radio Row episodes that was posted over the weekend before the Super Bowl with guest George Phillips, who has covered boxing and MMA and all things inside the ring for over 20 years now. So you guys want to make sure you go check that out. He will be a guest on a live show, hopefully eventually, to talk boxing, some of the big fights. I know Stipe fights at the end of March. So we'll get him on there. But definitely want to check that out, as well as our episode with Coach Pam Phillips, a women's coach for Fairmont State men's basketball. Really good, story with her and how she got into men's sports as a woman head coach. She was another one that appeared on the special Radio Row. So those are on our YouTube page and on all podcast platforms, Jordan. Just wanted to make sure our listeners knew that.
Yeah, and if you're out there and you haven't subscribed to our show on YouTube or subscribed on Spotify or iTunes, we appreciate if you do that and like this video, and tell your grandma about us, tell your friends about us. Mitch, let's get into some college basketball.
Let's do it.
The Ohio State Buckeyes on the men's side are number 4 in the AP poll right now. Seeing where they started at the beginning of the season, are you surprised?
Yeah, I am. I really am. Now, before the season started, I mean, we didn't know what to expect. Listen, Gonzaga was a team you expected to be in there, but Jordan, you also penciled in Duke, North Carolina, Kentucky, and Kansas, who are all outside of the top 25 right now. I don't think a lot of people knew what to expect without having March Madness last year, and then the lack of hype around college basketball to start this year. But I am shocked Ohio State's number 4, but after watching them for the past few weeks, Jordan, they are one of the better teams in the country. There's no doubt about that. And right now they're playing themselves into a potential number 1 seed come March and tournament time. Are you shocked of how high they are?
I am. I definitely am, just because there hasn't been, and maybe I shouldn't be, but I also should be. Let me explain to you what I mean. COVID has kind of taken college basketball's ability to market the sport away from them. You can't go to their games, so how can I market to you about these games if you can't come to them? What makes basketball as so much fun is when you can go to the games and watch in person. College basketball, like other sports, it loses. It just loses something when you can't watch it. It just loses something. I love listening to particular announcers on the radio, but you can't beat the in-person experience. You just can't beat it at all. With that said, I didn't think the Buckeyes would be any good because I didn't hear anything about them because of COVID and everything. And it's been a while since Ohio State's been viable. I mean, Ohio State couldn't win with some of the best players I've ever seen on the college level. So I didn't know how long it would be before I could see a very viable team down the street because, I'm not far from the arena. And so I am a little surprised, and I'm excited. I'm really excited I get to cheer for a hometown team because it's been a while since they've been this good. And we talk about him every week, Kyle Young. It's cool that obviously you have that connection to him, and I do just because I'm from the area. So lot to be excited about.
The biggest glue guy in the country. Dude hustles, does everything right. Had a career high 18 points last night to win at Maryland. Double-double. Dude's a machine. Really is. So just shut up, Kyle Young. But hey, man, Buckeyes are legit. It's good to have it. It's good to see them relevant back in the top 10, inside the top 5, and in the hardest conference in the country. There's no debate the Big Ten is the toughest conference in the country. That's why they have the most teams in the top 25. And as of right now, when you look at bracketology, they're going to have the most teams in the NCAA tournament. Jordan, does Ohio State play into the Big Ten? Although they're number 4, it's going to only help them, right? Come tournament time?
I think it does. I mean, come tournament time, there's so many variables in play. As a coach, you're not really worried about who you're going to play. And as a player, you're not really worried about who you're going to play, down the line. You're just trying to get into the dance. And once you figure out your opponent, then you can game plan for it. But I don't get too far into it about, say you don't win the Big Ten, but you're still better than a lot of these other teams that have higher seeds because they won their conferences and you didn't because you played in the Big Ten. I don't think it hurts you. I think the Big Ten allows you to grow each week because you're being tested. I'd much rather be in a conference like the Big Ten for Ohio State as opposed to, I think Gonzaga plays in, is it the SWAC or the WAC?
Yeah.
I much rather play in the Big Ten, have an extra 3 or 4 losses, but be incredibly battle tested. I think in person, as a coach, that's what I would want. Because you don't want to look too far into the future. But I think they have a shot. I'm excited they have a shot. It seems like everybody in the Big Ten almost has a shot.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Especially when you look at the top. I mean, the Big Ten has 3 teams inside the top 6. Michigan at 3, Ohio State at 4, Illinois at 6. You go down. Iowa has dropped to 15 after 2 straight losses. Ohio State beat them last week in Iowa City. And then you still have Wisconsin in here, Purdue, Rutgers. Minnesota is another team when I'm looking at the Big Ten standings right now that's a formidable foe. 12-7 overall, but their conference record is 5-7. Indiana just knocked off Iowa this past weekend. So there is a lot of there's a big chance that a lot of teams from the Big Ten are going to make the NCAA tournament, and some of them aren't even ranked right now, Jordan. I agree with the battle tested, but let's look at the top 25 right now.
Let's do it.
And Jordan, I'm sorry to report your sleeper team, Drake, took their first L this past weekend. And looks like they have bowed out of the top 25. Are you okay?
I'm okay. I lost some sleep, but it also could be all 30 Reese Cups I ate Saturday night as well when they lost. It could have been that. That could have been the reason why I was up an extra hour. Maybe it wasn't the basketball game now that I think of it. I'm okay with it. I'll live.
It could have been both. Jordan, is there a team now that you're not as sold on that you may have been last week? Because I have one team.
Yeah. To be completely honest, I don't. I don't want to give you an opinion on this because, to be honest with you, I don't know if I've watched enough college basketball to pick a team that I feel confident in. I don't want to put my word out there like that. I don't want to take credibility away from myself. I'm going to let you tell us your number one team.
Oh, number one team for me is still Gonzaga.
No, not Gonzaga your number one team, but yeah.
Okay. Right now, the teams that aren't shocking me are Alabama, who lost again this past weekend, and Texas, who is slipping again. We really thought Texas was on the map. I believe they were inside the top 6 a few weeks ago, led by Shaka Smart, who we both said, hey, it's about time. Shaka Smart's been there for so long after he left ECU, doing a damn good job this season. Now they've trickled down a little bit. This week they dropped from 6 all the way to 13 after 2 losses, like I said. And Alabama dropped another spot after losing another game. So those two teams, I had question marks once they were all the way up there. I was kind of like, wow, really?
Yeah.
Really? Like Alabama, really? And now it seems like, hey, they're a good basketball team, but they're not one of the best in the country like some people thought. I'm not saying you or I did, but there's definitely people out there that thought they were.
Also, we should note that Missouri had the most, moved the most during this past week of play. They moved up 8 spots, but to give context, they did beat 2 top 10 teams in Bruce Pearl's is it the men Volunteers?
No, Bruce Pearl's at Auburn.
Oh, no!
He was at Tennessee.
Wow, that's going to be on like a cold take. If I ever... Yeah, well, that's bad. Sorry, Bruce Pearl, I'm 10 years behind. Let's just keep moving from that. We can't stay there.
Well, shout out to Loyola, who made a jump this week into the top 25. They are now at 22. So shout out to Sister over there, if everyone remembers her from 2 March Madnesses ago. Loyola, they're back. Yeah, that's all I got.
And you did see that on the women's side of things, there was a Goliath matchup. And I would say, what is it, Adam and Goliath? What's his name?
David and Goliath?
David, yeah. The fact that I have to...
Who the hell's Adam? Who's Adam?
Is it Adam and Goliath? No, it's David and Goliath. Last night wasn't it wasn't really an Adam and Goliath fight. It was more just 2 incredible basketball teams playing last night. And I'm going to tell you those 2 teams finally. The Huskies were playing the number 1 South Carolina Gamecocks. I love the Gamecocks. Visited down there a ton of times. And a nail-biter last night, Mitch. UConn defeats the number 1 team in the country, 63-59 in overtime. Mitch, I'm not going to pronounce his name right, but the University of Connecticut, do they have the best coach in all of sports?
Gino Auriemma?
Yes, that guy. That's his name.
Listen, whether he is the best coach in all of sports or isn't, he's a top 5. And I mean, UConn is a powerhouse year in and year out. He gets the best players. We have now seen women's college programs across the country try to get as many good players to knock them off. But Jordan, he is by far the best in women's sports. He's top 5 in men's sports. He has to be. Listen, the guy wins. That's all there is to it. The guy wins, and I'll say yes, Gino Auriemma is one of the best coaches in all of sports. Do you think he is?
I think he definitely is. I will say some of the recruiting classes he had over the years were so ridiculous, though, it would have been impossible for him to lose. But he has to be one of the best coaches. I mean, I don't know how you would get all of those female athletes to come to your university if they didn't believe in who you were. I don't think you can be a con artist at that level. I think, as a coach, the guys and the women will weed people like that out. So I think he has to be. I mean, he has to be.
I agree. And friend of the show, listener, and soon to be occurring guest Sam Summers weighed in and said, "Let's go Huskies." Sam has been a huge University of Connecticut Huskies fan, both on the men's side when they had Hashim Thabit. I think he'll still argue that Hashim Thabit is the greatest player in like college basketball history or something. Don't try to get in an argument with him. And then also, was it Brianna Stewart, Sam, that you were high on at UConn? Maya Moore. I can't name all the women because super Husky fan Sam Summers is who he is.
All you need to know is Diana Taurasi played in the same era that basically JJ Redick was, so I watched all of her games. She's the only women's basketball player out of Lisa Leslie and Brittany Griner who you even need to know the name of.
I'm so glad you just mentioned the name Lisa Leslie, and I know some listeners are going to be glad, and viewers. Jordan, there was a thing over the weekend that said Lisa Leslie once scored 101 points in a half in high school.
I don't
16 minutes. You don't even consider it a lie at all.
I don't need to fact check that. No.
All right, so you believe she scored 101 points in a half?
Isn't she like 6'8"?
Right. Listen, she is a
Actually,
baller.
she's taller than that. Somebody needs to find out how tall is Lisa Leslie. She has to be taller than that because they made posters of her to put next to like door frames to show how big she was, and you could buy those in school. I'm old.
101 points in 16 minutes.
She's only 6'5". She's the tallest 6'5" woman I've ever seen in my life. Making 6'5" look like 7'3". Girl, you killing the game.
She killed the game in that 101 point game so bad that the team left at halftime that they were playing.
Yeah.
So there's no way anybody else on her team scored, right? Like she had to have scored every single bucket in the first half if she put 101 up in 16 minutes.
That's surreal.
That's over 6.5 points a minute. Like she must have been just draining 3-ball after 3-ball.
6.5 points a minute. That's disgusting. That is unbelievable.
It's absolutely just.
It is
incredible, actually. And Katie Lou Samuelson was Sam Summers' love of the University of Connecticut Huskies on the women's side. So want to make sure I gave Katie Lou her shout out. And that is Sam's wife, I think, but she doesn't know that they're married, I believe. But just, yeah.
Thank you for that tidbit. Mitch, before we end things up, because we are coming to an end here, we have one more section left. You ready to get into it?
Oh, I'm ready to get into it.
Who has bigger balls?
Mitch, who has bigger balls?
Jordan. Is it the Tampa Bay mayor? At a press conference today, or Monday, excuse me, Tampa Bay Mayor Jane Castor said that the maskless fans at the Super Bowl will be identified by law enforcement and the police will handle the situation. But she was caught on the scoreboard at Super Bowl 55 in Tampa without a mask on. So is it Jane Castor or Jordan? Is it Dustin Fox of 92.3 The Fan in Ohio, who we don't know the specifics, but was accused and deactivated his Twitter. And right now looks like he has been DMing other women while married. Or in a relationship with somebody. We don't know. According to the internet, he is married. So is it Dustin Fox for messaging other women, calling them beautiful, wanting to hang out with them? Or is it Mayor Jane Castor for not wearing a mask to Super Bowl 55 and being caught and then saying anybody who didn't wear a mask will be identified and the police will handle the situation?
So this is kind of tough because both of these people are original. When I think of this mayor, the first person I think of is Nancy Pelosi when she came out and said, "Hey, don't leave your house," and then she was seen in her her salon the next day.
Yeah,
so,
getting her nails done.
Yeah. So she's just another schmuck, just like she is. And then when I think of Dustin Fox, I saw his text messages because me and you went through this a little before the show of what he sent. I don't know who he thinks he is exactly, but he does not. I'm just not sure exactly why he would send the messages he sent. I'm not going to get into this because I want our listeners to go look for these messages so they can have context. I think it has to be Dustin Fox because this is what happens, Dustin, when you don't respond to direct messages from people who send you messages. I sent him a message. He never responded. Honest to God, this is what he gets. This is karma, to be honest.
And I did fact check. His Twitter is still deactivated right now. I have not done enough digging today. This was all yesterday. Something went down in the wee hours after Super Bowl 55 in the morning of 5 a.m. on Monday morning to a point where he deactivated his account. But Jordan, I think we're going to have to throw this one to Twitter, because I am going to say that the Tampa Bay mayor has bigger balls, figuratively, because I would hope she didn't have balls. You're right. That's usually how it works. Because she was caught on the scoreboard at Raymond James Stadium without a mask in her suite next to people with masks on, and then has a press conference the next day saying people without a mask at the Super Bowl that are residents are going to get in trouble.
Oh, that came out in reverse. I did not know
yes.
that. Oh,
yes.
When you told me that story, I thought, oh, okay, never mind. That, man, that's awesome, actually. I hated this mayor, and now I love this mayor, because that does take big balls.
Well, she didn't wear a mask.
That is worse. You're right. That's worse. We don't have to go to Twitter for that. I didn't realize you were going in reverse order. If you're
Sorry, that's on me.
Yeah, you're good. If you're still listening to us, we're going to close this thing out. Please like and subscribe to this podcast. It just helps get this thing out. We do want to talk to more people, tell them about how much we love Baker Mayfield and the Cleveland Browns. Mitch, I thought go ahead.
Also, why it's not acknowledged enough that Otto Graham should technically be the GOAT in the NFL too. 7 championships and 10 appearances, only played 10 years, lost 13 career games. DeShone Kizer lost 15 in 1 year alone.
That's our outro, and that's what you're going to say?
That's 100% what I'm going to say.
That's beautiful. Well, guys, I'm Jordan McKelly.
I am Mitch Bell. I'm not John Jacob Jingleheimer Schmidt.
Thank you for clearing that up. And we're the Cover Your Balls crew on every Tuesday and Thursday at 4 p.m., give or take 60 seconds. Sometimes we're late. It's been real. It's been good. It's been real good. We are out of here.